About 2 weeks ago, more than 150 persons lost their precious lives while scooping petrol from a falling tanker in Jigawa State, northwest of Nigeria. This type of tragedy has become one too many in the history of road accidents in Nigeria, and there's a growing view that this form of happenstances have been fueled, ironically so, by widespread multidimensional poverty in the land. According to experts, avoidable deaths suffered by those victims in Jigawa State confers additional responsibility on the government, which provides and maintains road infrastructure, as well as traffic managers and law enforcement agencies all over Nigeria. We're now being joined for a chat on what needs to be done urgently to enhance safety on Nigerian roads by Timothy Iwuagwu, who is the National President of Institute of Safety Professionals of Nigeria. Many thanks, Mr. Iwuagwu, for joining us on the morning show today. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. All right, let's start with what happened in Jigawa. I know that it's not a fresh story, but what is still germane about it is the safety component of it. We're not necessarily talking road accidents, but we're talking about safety component of road accidents, especially as it affects individuals. Now, in respect to your institute, of which you are the national president, is this something that you see every day? And if you do, how are you dealing with it in terms of advocacy and in terms of interventions to ensure that there is a drastic reduction in this type of dangerous and delicate situations that we face almost every now and then?
Thank you, and good morning once again. I think the continuous experience of road accidents and the carnage generally, and then when we are looking at tanker trucks, like what happened in Jigawa now, is going to draw our attention to a different dimension of this. But the Institute of Safety Professionals of Nigeria has always been emphasizing attitudinal changes, because most of these problems you see is a cocktail of issues that have resulted to this. For example, drivers' behavior on the road. The road is not a place for jokers. It's a place for travelers, business-minded people who either are driving or are just commuting. So people have suffered a lot of problems due to non-compliance by those using the road, whether they are pedestrians crossing the road without looking, or they are drivers driving without following the code of conduct prescribed by the law. The Institute of Safety Professionals of Nigeria, in the terms of advocacy, if we go by the act that established this institute, now the act has mandated the institute to regulate safety management in both the public and private sectors of the economy of Federal Republic of Nigeria. And in so doing, it has to collaborate with relevant agencies of government. And if you look at the issue of advocacy, like you asked, we need organizations like National Orientation Agency. We need generally Ministry of Information and the other agencies that has a lot to do with or have a lot to do with dissemination of information. Now, how effective the information would be depends on the domain where the information is going. We have a lot of people, unions, road transport unions. We have tanker truck drivers association, and so on. And then how will the information go? When you call them, you need to talk. There's need for training, dissemination of information. Training doesn't necessarily mean it must be in the classroom. It has to be with the management, the heads of different organizations, disseminating information continuously so that it will affect or impact on the behavioral pattern of the people who are involved. So we've lost people. Look at the number that died in Jigawa. And that alone, if you look at it, it doesn't speak well of Nigerian society. We have always had terrible incidents of this nature. 1998 at Jesse, we lost hundreds of people in a similar incident where people were going to scoop petrol from pipelines. So we have this repeatedly every day. If it happens this morning, if a tanker falls and spills its content, people will still rush to go and scoop, even when the Jigawa incident is still very fresh. And then that leaves the rest of the world wondering whether we are ever learning, because you cannot claim to have learned anything if what you have learned or what you said you have learned does not bring about a measurable change in your behavioral pattern. So the society of Nigeria and the Nigerian government have a lot in their hands when it comes to accident prevention. Now we come to safety. Now what is this safety we are talking about? Safety is not the name of any material or any object. It has to do with the totality of actions and measures you put in place to protect things of value. And these things of value, the most of all of them, is the human life. And we are losing lives. We are losing means of livelihood. People, businesses often go. I know what happened about Ochanja Market in Onitsha, where a tanker truck fell and the content had to flow through the drainage lines, the gutters, and when fire came, the fire followed it to different business areas and people lost their means of livelihood. Is there an insurance cover? Who takes care of that? And what does the government say about this?
Mr. Timothy, if I can come in here. You've touched rightfully on safety, and I want to just ask a question about the effective incident response systems and technological solutions for road safety, because when these accidents occur, rapid response can save lives. So how efficient are Nigeria's current emergency response systems for road accidents? And in your opinion, what improvements are needed to handle these large-scale accidents that involve hazardous cargo? In many countries, technology like a smart road monitoring and driver alert systems help prevent accidents. How are we as a country leveraging such technology for better safety monitoring and enforcement, especially on major highways? So we're talking about emergency response as well as leveraging technology. Mr. Timothy.
Yes. Emergency response. The responders, the first responders, cannot actually respond effectively without some communication between the witnesses and them, the responders. If you witness an incident, you have to communicate. So what's the means? The means of reaching out to the first responders. Basically, the Federal Fire Service, the State Fire Service, and the rest of them, NEMA and their services, they have to be informed. Apart from their normal monitoring, they should have a means of monitoring incidents on the road. And then if they get information, what's the interval of time? Because the difference between response and information dissemination could be the difference between life and death. If there's a delay in response, then more losses will be incurred. So we are looking at technology now. Okay, communication, of course. is one. Then the design and fabrication of the tanker trucks, the control of speed on vehicles. I took a cab down here, and I was very happy inside that cab because the vehicle will not let the driver go beyond 80. Yes, and once he gets up to 80, I notice there's an alarm that beeps, and then the vehicle just retards on its own and brings it back to 70, and he tries to go beyond 80, and it brings him back. So I was very pleased. Now, these are all part of the technologies we are talking about.
Was that a taxi, or Uber or something?
I think it's Uber or one. There's a name my children call it, and they call him. I'm not familiar with them, and but they have been useful. But this is the first time I'm boarding one that has such technology incorporated in speed control. And so we look at modern day trucks. Modern day trucks have very, very highly developed power steering system. They are even easier to drive than cars. And then if you put any madman behind the steering, the truck will drive him. So it's part of what the technology itself has brought. We have turbocharged engines where you can maximize power. And so the engine will rev and the driver will speed at any rate. Now, what is the brake efficiency? What's the stopping distance? What is the velocity? And what is the mass of material it's carrying? So we have momentum as the product of that velocity and the mass. So, and if the brake efficiency is not enough to bring a retardation that will make the driver stop where he wants to stop, then he will crash into many other things. But the roads are bad. The roads are bad. So should a vehicle be so fast? The road is even a speed limiter on its own, if the driver is sane enough. Because if you are driving even at night and your visibility is not enough for you to see more than maybe 100 meters or 50 meters, why should you be at a speed that will take you beyond that point? So these are issues. Well, when we talk of leveraging on technology, I think the best technology is the one nature has endowed the human biological system, so that you look and you use your eyes, your ears, the five senses, we call them objective faculties, and they are meant to regulate our relationship between our internal and external environment.
Yes, Mr. Timothy, I really appreciate that you said that. I also really appreciate that you've highlighted some of these technologies, particularly in cars and trucks. But you've also highlighted human behavior, and that's a core component of our road traffic accidents, particularly in Nigeria. The former Minister of Works, Fashola, had said in his book, the Nigerian public discourse, the relationship between empirical evidence and hyperbole. He said it's very hyperbolic to say that our roads are just bad, because beyond the roads being bad, most accidents that leave people dead or injured occur because of reckless behavior. I appreciate the story you told earlier, because even though the car was checking the driver, he still kept trying to get to that 80 and had to be checked. So as in your role, how do you reach out to people? Do you have any information? Do you have any campaigns to try and curb behavior, particularly in Lagos roads? Sometimes it's quite scary how people treat traffic lights, how people treat intersections, how people treat lanes or even walkways. So you see that a Danfo truck can use a side lane as a route onto himself. So are there any public campaigns that you do or your organization does, or do you believe that there should be more campaigns from the government side, from our local government all the way to the federal level, in terms of changing human behavior and how we see our roads and how we treat each other on the road?
Yes. When we look at the behavior of humans, we say accidents are a thing of everyday life, and accidents are caused by something. they are not, those things are real. And the first of them is human factors. And then we talk of situational factors. And then we'll be talking of environmental factors. Now, these factors outside the human, the one we designate human factor, the environmental and situational have some human input also. Because if the weather is very foggy and you cannot see, or if the road is so slippery due to wet season, you should also regulate your speed. And then if you don't know the mechanical state of your car, why should you speed? And then if the road is bad, so because we talk of road safety, and if they said we also talk of roadworthiness. So if the vehicle is not worthy to be on the road, is the road worthy of receiving a vehicle? I just came in from Abuja. The roads are good in Abuja relatively when you compare across the country. And then Lagos is the hub of commerce, and everybody is on the move, trying to reach out one business or the other to meet up their daily economic desires. Now, I saw that a lot of accidents in Abuja is about overspeeding, and people just run into any gutter, they choose where to run into. And nobody wants to control himself. And if you talk of behavioral pattern of the people, people don't tend to learn. Sometimes we are carried away. We want to reach a destination in a very short time. And we are not considering that this destination you want to get, you must get there alive to be recorded as somebody who made it. So safety comes into play at that point. Safety awareness through dissemination of information, through training. The Institute is training, even one training is starting tomorrow morning. Again, every month we run such trainings up to twice. And we also look at, last December, we had a seminar, a webinar on fire incidents in Harmattan season. It was free, we didn't charge any money for Nigerians. We consider that part of our corporate social responsibility. So there are a whole lot of things we do. Now, collaborating with relevant agencies, like I mentioned, the National Orientation Agency, like you rightly asked also about local government, state government, federal government, their input. The 3 tiers of government have always been there, but we always see the federal and the state. The local government is virtually obscure and non-existent. So most local government don't even know they are part of the system because they don't have any robust program that can be quoted or cited as an input in putting society safe. When we look at safety, from one military checkpoint before the international airport in Nnamdi Azikiwe, the road, there's no street light, no lighting whatsoever. Even with your headlamp on its full beam, you cannot see well. Now, street lights are meant to complement the headlamps of cars because without that visibility, you can't guarantee safety in an obscure environment, especially when you are on motion. So we have a whole lot of things. Now, most of the roads, there are no reflectors on this roadside. Either you use paint that are reflective that will help drivers to see, because the human eyes are not, by its very nature and configuration, are not meant for nocturnal use. So you must need light. We are not like cats and dogs and all this, so that can see under that obscure condition. So these things, what is the government doing? Are they professionals making contact with government? Is government also ready to reach out to professionals? I mean professionals, not political professionals. We mean professionals. So so as to give ideas. We're not asking for money. The institute has never received subvention, has never gotten any budgetary allocation, has never gotten any grant. It's all about members using their intellectual capacities to develop programs and help society. And so that's the way it is. So we need more. We need support from government. I am also very happy that we now have the President of Federal Republic of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as one time he has been a fellow of this institute. It's unbelievable too. He has been a fellow of the institute. We have prominent Nigerians, people like Anyim Pius, Anyim, a fellow of this institute. And so the truth is that over years, the departments, ministries, agencies have not actually come out because you don't expect the president to know everything that is happening.
All right. All right, Mr. Iwuagwu. I mean, I was just going to chip in that I hope that you are also working with professionals within the fold of the Federal Road Safety Commission, because I know that there are a lot of, very great professionals there. But I'm afraid that this is where we will have to end it now, given that time is not on our side. But I would like to thank you so much for the insight that you have brought into the subject this morning.